subways are built to take people to work. And it's, you know, like, I feel like I'm a prisoner at work, a prisoner on the subway, a prisoner in this filthy city. I'm getting nothing. I'm working. I'm getting drained.
How has the fare increase affected you?
It hasn't.
You don't find yourself being able to buy less things now?
No. I never could buy anything anyway.
Oh, I gotta go places. Have no choice. Have I got a choice? I have a choice.
Now that the fare has gone up, it's like just adding to my expenses. I pay 30 cents, 60 cents a day, and if I want to go somewhere, if I want to meet with some people, then it costs me, you know, like $1.20 a day just to move around. You know, that really adds up. I feel trapped. I mean, what do we do for the city? We do a lot. We keep it moving. You know, like if it wasn't for the people who worked, there would be nothing. But they don't do anything for us. They just take and take and take. And one way of seeing that is from the subways. The hell we have to go through to get to work and to get home again.
So we're like packed in there, and I mean, I go to work in the rush hour in the morning, and I mean, it's hard. Not only isn't there a place to sit, but I mean, there's not even a place to stand. I mean, it just gets squashed all over the place.
And the noise in the subway, not only does it seem unbearable, it's been medically proven that it's unbearable, that the level of noise in the subways is so high that it causes mental illness, for one thing. For another thing, it actually causes deafness. It causes deafness to workers who are in the subway, and it causes deafness to people who ride the subways every day.
I just can't stand it. And now that summertime is here, you know, I ride the IRT, Lexington Avenue, and it's so hot that it's hot in the morning. But at night, after work, when the heat builds up, it's just devastating. I get home from work and I'm totally exhausted. It just kills me to ride on that Lexington Avenue. It must be 120 degrees. And, you know, I just, there's no other way for me to get to work.
And you have all these ads that make you think, you know, well, if I don't have bad breath, maybe the guy next to me does. And you really, it almost makes you begin to hate people. You almost want to blame somebody. And I guess that we make a big mistake in blaming the wrong people, and blaming the people who are standing next to us and the people who are, you know, just as miserable as we are. Something's got to be done.
In January 1970, the Transit Authority raised the subway fare in New York City from 20 to 30 cents a ride. The reason given by the Transit Authority was that they needed the fare increase due to the new wage contract which they had just negotiated with the workers. The increase in the salaries of the workers amounted only to 6%, while the fare went up 50%.
Wage increase that is coming to us is necessary in order for men to live, to support their families, what have you. But naturally, wages have to go up because the cost of living is going up.
When the city needs money to construct new subways and to fix up old ones, so what they do is have municipal bonds. And most of the people who buy these bonds are banks because they're all in a minimum of a $5,000 denomination. A bond is sort of like a savings bond. If we buy a savings bond, we give money to the government so that they can use it, and then we get it returned to us after a certain number of years with interest. And that's what happens with a municipal bond. The bank lends the city money in return, knowing that they're going to get the money back in a certain number of years plus interest. Yet one thing that's better about these bonds than savings bonds is that the banks don't have to pay any tax on the money that they're loaning to the city. But then the city has to pay back the banks. And they don't have any money because if they did, they wouldn't have to borrow money from the banks in the first place. So what they do is come back to the people and raise taxes. so that we pay for the municipal bonds. For the municipal bonds which are used to finance the construction of the subways, and for the municipal bonds which are used for every other city project. We have to pay for the subways through when we ride them, and we have to pay for them even if we don't ride them.
The TA is just a small scale on what this country, or the system, is perpetrating on the people. Taking money from you and channeling it into other areas where you'll never see it again.
Most of the politicians, I'd say at least 95% of them, they'll take a position in favor of these bonding programs. When they leave their constituents and they go back to Albany or wherever, they always wind up voting for the bankers, the ones who get the great deal of the money out of those bondings.
The reason that they charge so much money to ride the subways is that they have to spend so much on interest, which they have to pay back to the banks which lent them the money in the first place. Last year it amounted to over $140 million in interest alone. That's $140 million more that the Transit Authority would have had to maintain the subways.
We've been paying enough interest to buy the subways twice, and we still haven't begun to pay back the original loan.
So I think that the people just have to understand that the bonding is not the answer to them. The bonding is the major reason why they're getting the hosing that they're getting. Some time ago, the people in New York City voted for a $500 million bonding for a Second Avenue subway. Now, that bonding was approved by the legislature, and the bonds were granted. There was no building of the Second Avenue subway.
So people on the Lower East Side, as well as other parts of the city, still have to pay two fares to get to work.
According to the law which set up the Transit Authority repairs old cars while the city must buy new ones. The Transit Authority, however, does not repair the old cars in order to save money. Then the city has to buy new ones, and they get the money to do that by raising taxes.
I work for cars and shops and the repairs. The Transit Authority fails to do this preventive maintenance that we had once before. Don't want to fix the old ones, and they're using the very little stock that they have in hand. They're stripping other cars in the yard to replace this.
They wait until a train is no longer capable of moving, practically. They'll send that train out as long as it can move.
You're lucky to go to the end of the ride. I don't have my wife and kids ride those trains. They're unsafe. I don't like to ride them myself.
And the crews don't want to take these trains, but we have to take these trains as it is. But then we pull into a station, what happens? The door hangs up. Now I have to take at least 5 minutes to go find that door. Meanwhile, service is starting to back up behind me. Now, the riding public looks at me as like it's my fault that this door is hanging up, that I'm holding them up. In reality, it's not me. I'm there to operate the trains, not really to maintain. I have had trains that I have wrote up as being inoperable, as far as doors and guard lights and dead motors, what have you. And I see that same train back on the road tomorrow, the next day.
These trains pulling apart between the Rockaways and Brooklyn is very frequently now. And there's more people getting hurt every day. The derailment at 180th Street, where 52 people were hurt, but that was switch trouble.
This is WNAW News, up to the minute. Ray Rice reporting. During this morning's rush hour, an empty train slammed into the side of a Manhattan-bound GG train near Roosevelt Avenue. 2 people were killed and more than 50 were injured, some of them critically. Stanley Devoren of Jamaica, a student, was on his way to school. He told Mike Eisgrau what happened.
Well, we were riding and the train just hit us. And there was all sorts of dust and we were tumbling. And first thing when the train stopped, I was outside of the train. I was thrown out.
You were thrown out of the train?
Onto the track.
And what happened then?
Well, I was able to get up, but my friend's foot was caught. I was trying to help him, and finally 2 conductors came over and helped him out.
As usual, the TA is laying the blame on a worker, not their poor equipment. And they'll probably get away with it, because the motorman is black.
The TA should be the ones to be held responsible, and the public should know that the TA is the one that they should be looking to with the bad eye, because they are putting the trains out there that you are riding on. But if the public was aware when they see a train is in bad service, they shouldn't even ride the trains themselves. They should demand that this train be taken out. You should be aware that you go to J Street and knock on their door, because they are the ones who are keeping the maintenance at a low level.
When the final answers are in, you get the bonding, your service gets worse, your complaints fall on deaf ears, so you have to find another way, and you're not going to find that way through the politicians. The subway should be free because this city functions because of a transit system. All the industry in the city benefits because of the transit system. And the city, at this point, the real estate businesses in this city at this point are paying less than half of what they paid in 1937 and 1938 toward their share of the responsibility of government. And the figures don't lie. If you're going to have a viable society, and everybody claims they want that, well then the people that benefit the most from the city and are able to pay because they benefit the most just have to pay their share. And they're not paying their share. The workers, the transit workers, are subsidizing the subways. The people that ride them are subsidizing the subways.
But the transit system isn't designed for us. You can't get from Queens to the Bronx by subway. The system is set up by the politicians and big businessmen to get us to work and to make money for the bankers. Rockefeller appoints the MTA to fork over fat interest payments to the bondholders, like Rockefeller's Chase Manhattan Bank.
So to keep the profits flowing to the bankers, they stick us with poor subways and high fares.
It's just like the telephones, gas, and electric. The rates go up and the service gets worse. A few years ago, there was a fare increase in Italy. The people answered it by joining with the transit workers in a general work stoppage. The fare was lowered 2 days later.
Yeah, the only way we're going to get out of this transit mess is if the riding public unites with workers.
I mean, we're the ones who have to start thinking about ourselves. Because right now, nobody else is. One thing that happened after the fare increase was that a group of us decided not to pay the fare. And we decided the hell with it. We opened up the gates, the exit gates. We told people to come on through. We refused to pay the fare. We went under the turnstiles, and it was really a great, exhilarating feeling. We were taking control. And an awful lot's going to happen in New York before the people actually have control of it. Maybe that's it, before the people actually have control of it. But we started. The subway action was really a big start.
New York want to know who wrecked our subway trains, the ones we thought that ran so well, and now who can we blame? We want to know who raised the fare way up to 30 cents, cause what it cost to ride each year would pay for 3 months' rent. But now we're up against it and we've got to raise a row. Of all the times I've ever seen, we're sure up against it now. The only thing that we can do is do the best we can and fight to put the subways into the people's hands. Now I could be a banker without the least excuse, but look at the transit authority and tell me what's the use. They loot us each year for $141 million. The bonds were issued and the interest paid, and now we're in tough luck. But now we're up against it and we've got to raise a row. Of all the times I've ever seen, we're sure up against it now. The only thing that we can do is do the best we can and fight to put the subways into the people's hands. The big shots blame the workers and cry to you and me, while they dish out the interest completely tax-free. They soaked up all the profits till they didn't do so well. They pretended to sell us back the trains and subways went to hell.